Here's a true story. I had to make a business call unrelated to the show today, Gator. Yeah. And I went and sat in that conference room that is right next door to our studio.
Yeah.
I was on the phone for about 2 minutes, and I had to get up and leave because it was so loud.
In here.
I couldn't hear the phone call next door.
It's funny because I think some people think that it's a bit.
It's not.
We all joke about how loud Rieger is and how loud Leach is. People think it's a bit.
Yeah.
It's not a bit.
They're both the two loudest people you have ever come across. They're both loud. Loud as hell.
They suffer from voice modulation.
Anyway, yes, we'll try and keep it down. If you're worried about Middle Tennessee, Wisconsin, and Army, then Michigan isn't a contender for anything. They might not be. I mean, this is not. I'm not. In the business of trying to sell anybody on anything. I think the challenge isn't that any one of those individuals alone is going to necessarily beat Michigan. I think the challenge is preparing for three distinctly different offenses: week 1, week 2, week 3.
Well, that and
game 1, game 2, game 3.
Being concerned or making sure that you're prepared. I think those are maybe two different things. Yeah. I would imagine that Wisconsin is going to be a pretty tough out this year, particularly when they play at home.
Yep.
So, yeah. And if you did pay attention, like you said about talking about Army fears no one. And when they bring everybody back with that offense, it's an interesting offense to watch. They are very methodical about what they do. They run the clock down on the play clock, and it's like watching the Princeton offense in basketball. It's the Army offense in football. They are really good at controlling that clock, and they move the ball down the field. They're able to matriculate it down the field.
My concern for Michigan is the same as the last few years. Jim Harbaugh, time for him to show up in big games. So far, pitiful. It's from Mark in Canton. How does Kirk Ferentz not have a job at a bigger university? Look what he continues to do in the Big Ten every year against the top schools in the nation. I would offer him the moon if I was a school bigger than Iowa.
He doesn't want to leave.
I don't think he does.
He could have gone to the NFL. He doesn't want to leave.
Nope. Michigan has the most returning stars in the Big Ten. Stop looking at the glass half empty, Douglas. Well, they have the most returning starters. I don't know if that's true. I did see they have the most returning all Big Ten players. No, they're going to be good, but that doesn't mean the season doesn't come without concerns. My biggest concern is Don Brown, who's the Michigan's defensive coordinator. His defense is always super aggressive, which is fine against lower-level teams, but always gets burned against equal talent. Look at Ohio State last year and Penn State a few years ago. He needs to let off the gas pedal sometimes. That's from Nick in Ann Arbor. 248-539-9797. Ticket text 97136. If you want to get in, Michigan and Michigan State fans, what is your biggest concern for this coming season? All right, Gator. Actually, let's get to some phone calls before I get to this thing we've never seen before. Tom is in Oxford. Hi, Tom.
Hi, you guys? Great show.
Thank you.
Great show. Hey, I was driving by, and it's really great to be talking about college football because with what we're suffering through this summer. But anyway, I agree with you, Gator, about Michigan State, and Lewerke has to stay healthy for them to be good. And from what we saw in the spring game, he looked really good. And then my other concern with Michigan State is Willicke will come back and play that other defensive end. And then as a Panasiuk is going to play the other defensive end. But how much depth does Michigan State have on the defensive line? And as far as a pass rush, they're going to have to, especially when they play Michigan, they're going to have to get a pass rush on Shea, or he's got those three receivers to throw to all day. How deep are they on defensive end? I know that middle three are great, Panasiuk and Naquan Williams and the rest of them. And the linebackers are good, and the corners.
He's got it surrounded.
Right. Yeah, well, it's first, Kenny Willekes on one end, and the Panasiuk. There's the two Panasiuk brothers they're both very good. They've got some depth on the defense, but it might be some younger guys. But some guys got some experience last year and a chance to showcase a little bit of what they have in that spring game. But up the middle, when you've got Raekwon Williams and Naquan Jones, that's a lot of beef right there in the middle, and the Panasiuks are kind of interchangeable. One guy plays inside, one guy plays outside. But I think they're expecting bigger things from one of the Slades that's on this team. Looking at Jack Camper's another one that they like. who plays on the outside, and what kind of role is Boyer Randall going to have? Is he going to step up to more than just a pass rushing third down guy? The defensive line is there's reason to look at that and say, okay, what else is there if Willekes isn't healthy? I get that, but there's the guys in the middle. It seems like they've got a lot of depth right there in the middle. Right.
I know they got a defensive end from Flint that they're hoping will turn out to be good. I forget his Fletcher, is that his name? And they're hoping he can. And then they've got some other guys on the team too. They've even got a preferred walk-on from Oxford. I saw him play for 2 years, and he's pretty good. He's 6'5", 275 already, and he's in the quarterback's face a lot. But who knows how good he'll be as a preferred walk-on at Michigan State. But, D'Antonio can develop these guys and make them good in a hurry. So.
Well, I think you're onto something. I do think depth is a concern for Michigan State across the board. But if they stay healthy, they will be, as they like to say, a tough out. 248-539-9797. All right, if you want to continue with that, biggest concern for Spartan fans, biggest concern for Wolverine fans. Gator.
Doug.
I'm gonna read some numbers for you, all right? You ready?
I am ready.
Tell me if you know what this is. 4, 7. Any idea?
Wait a minute.
4, 7.
Are there more numbers coming in the sequence?
There's more coming. I'm just wondering.
4, 7.
I want you to think about a sport.
Okay. Gotcha.
The following numbers are 10, 5, 8.
We're talking about like a front nine on a golf course?
There you go. Very well done.
Okay, so 4. That's a good start.
4, 7.
No bueno.
10.
10's awful.
5, 8.
8's awful.
Yep.
So, yeah.
15.
15?
19.
What?
13.
Oh.
19.
I know where you're going now.
16. 19.
Good God.
12. 14. 10. 17. 5.
Is this Rieger's score or something? What are we doing?
This is worse than Rieger. This is from a U.S. amateur qualifier.
What?
The scores put out there by Trey Billardello. Trey Billardello is actually a good golfer. He ended up shooting a 202. Some of those scores were corrected when it was all done. He actually got a 25 on the par 4 second hole, which he played as his back nine.
How can you get a 25 on a hole?
Well, I'll explain in a minute. He got a 21 on the par 4 fourth.
What?
This was the scorecard that was originally signed, but it was because they couldn't enter a number higher than 19 on whatever they were using. So it was obviously some sort of electronic deal. The guy that was playing with him is named Darren Green. And he writes, or he said, excuse me, let me find his quotes here, that Baradello, I've never seen anything like it before. It was quite an experience. He started off like normal. He's actually not a bad golfer. He had some nice shots. He had 2 pars, and then it started to go a little downhill. Baradello parred each of his first 2 holes before making a triple bogey on the par 4 10th hole. Then he carded a 10 on the par 5 13th. His first of 10 double-digit scores. After he went triple bogey and 10, he melted down. After the first 9, he said he wanted to shoot the highest recorded score in USGA history. He just did not care. He was really rude to a lot of officials, too. Something was off. He would chip shots and scoot his ball around the tee box just to add strokes. Then he would pipe a 2-iron down the middle of the fairway, hit it on the green, and then scoot his ball around again with his putter. He'd be right next to the hole. Then I guess he'd think to himself that he didn't have enough strokes, and he'd hit the ball in the opposite direction of the hole.
What?
This guy...
Why was this jackass allowed to continue playing in the course?
I don't know. He intentionally ran up his golf score to a 202.
In a sanctioned event?
In a sanctioned event.
Where was this at?
This was in Florida. The Florida State Golf Association's U.S. Amateur Qualifier at the Miyako Lakes Country Club in West Palm Beach.
I bet this happens more than you think. Like in my golf league, people run up their score so their handicap stays up.
Do they
If they're
really?
winning, they'll take like an 8 on a hole.
Intentionally?
I've seen them miss putts.
They'll do it intentionally.
Oh, yeah.
So that they still win their match in your golf league, but don't impact their handicap?
Yes, sir. And you know who you are if you're listening.
That is BS.
I don't like it, but I mean, I guess play the game, right?
So, does anybody ever call them out?
No, because I'm not trying to get into a verbal argument with it. It's not that serious to me, but
Look, it's one thing if you're going to. I understand what you're saying, so they can be ringers or whatever later on and screw you over. But those guys aren't taking 20s.
no, they're not taking a 20.
They're not.
I mean,
They're not
that's an
putting the ball in the
extreme.
wrong direction so they can add to the total. I mean, this is. But when you start to see it, and there are officials on the course, how are they not just saying you're out, you're done?
Get them off the course.
You're making a mockery of this. You want nothing to do with this. All right, get out.
Well, probably as much of that, too, is you're wasting everybody's time. Like golf, everybody wants expedient play. Wasting everyone's time. Lions position battles, including one nobody's talking about. We'll get to that at 10:50, 97.1.